Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Arizona PBS election special, AZ Votes 2024. I'm your host, Heather Moore. Tonight, we're going to take an in-depth look at the election process in Arizona and issues that have gotten us to a point in this nation and in our state where election integrity is constantly questioned, sometimes with violent threats. In our live 2-hour special conducted before an audience at our studios here in downtown Phoenix, you'll hear from state and county election officials directly in the line of fire during what has been one of the most contentious periods in our nation's history. David Becker, Executive Director and founder of the nonpartisan nonprofit Center for Election Innovation and Research, will speak with election officials. And during the discussion, we'll get questions from our audience, as well as questions sent to us from you through social media. Later in the show, we're going to switch gears, and in our second hour, Arizona Horizon host Ted Simons will speak with journalists who have been boots on the ground chronicling these election events in real time. But first, right now, we want to take a look at how we got here with a report from producer Shauna Fisher and editor Jacob Glass.
The 2020 election was the most polarizing in recent memory. Despite all of that, the voter turnout was the highest in our country's history. According to the Census Bureau, 66% of Americans voted. And in Arizona, the numbers were even higher. Nearly 80% of registered voters showed up, the highest number in 2 decades. It ended with President Biden winning the state by a slim margin, only the third Democrat to do so in recent years, and planted our state squarely in the middle of a hotly contested battle over results. Despite President Biden winning the necessary 270 electoral votes and the popular vote, then President Trump refused to concede. Instead, he claimed the election was rigged and results should not be certified.
We've never lost an election. We're winning this election.
Soon after, 11 alleged fake electors, all of them state Republicans, signed documents declaring themselves Arizona's official presidential electors and that their votes were for Trump. All pushed for Vice President Mike Pence to accept them as electors or no electors at all. Currently, those 11 alleged fake electors are all under investigation by the Arizona Attorney General, Chris Mays. On January 6, 2021, Congress convened to certify the presidential results. But instead, GOP members refused and called for a debate on alleged voter fraud, including in Arizona. To this day, many Arizona Republican lawmakers and former President Trump still present false claims the election was rigged and have filed numerous lawsuits. All have failed. In March of 2021, the Arizona Senate Republican Caucus, led by President Karen Fann, hired 4 firms to examine the 2020 ballots for Maricopa County. The lead firm, Cyber Ninjas, had never done an audit before. Senate Republicans reviewed the final audit report and concluded that President Biden received 360 additional votes and Trump lost another 261 votes. In June of 2022, the House began its January 6th hearings. Most notably, Arizona lawmaker Rusty Bowers testified of the pressure by Trump supporters demonstrating outside his home, as well as by Trump himself and his attorney Rudy Giuliani to flip the outcome in Arizona. Mr. Bowers refused.
But you are asking me to do something against my oath, and I will not break my oath.
The January 6th committee concluded there was enough evidence to convict former President Trump and recommended the Department of Justice pursue criminal charges against him for obstruction of an official proceeding. On August 1st, 2023, federal prosecutor Jack Smith announced the indictment of former President Trump, a first for a president.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding.
That trial is on hold as the Supreme Court decides if a president is immune from prosecution for alleged crimes committed while they held office. In 2022, the top 6 administrative offices in Arizona were on the ballot. On Election Day, an issue with voting machines occurred, but the county recorders assert no voter was disenfranchised and everyone who wanted to vote was able to do so. However, the results of governor, secretary of state, and attorney general were all challenged by the losing GOP candidates. An independent investigation by former Arizona Supreme Court Justice Ruth McGregor identified the problems with the voting machines as equipment failure. The paper could not withstand the heat of the machines, but concluded no one could have anticipated this issue and no voters were disenfranchised.
And we're going to turn the show over now to David Becker. He is the executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research. David also serves as an election law expert for CBS News, and he's also written a book with CBS's chief Washington correspondent, Major Garrett, titled The Big Truth, Upholding Democracy in the Age of the Big Lie. Here now is David Becker.
Thank you, Heather, and good evening, everyone. I founded my organization to make sure voters trust elections and election officials feel protected when doing their jobs. Tonight, I'm fortunate enough to talk to election officials from Maricopa County in the state of Arizona who know how our elections work and are some of the best in the country. They're key in implementing safe, secure, fair elections that voters can trust. And yet many don't. And our election officials feel the sting of their rebukes and violent threats, fed by constant misinformation. I'm really honored to be joined tonight by Democratic Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, who oversees Arizona's elections and is the chief election official of the state of Arizona. Also joining me, Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer, whose office is responsible for conducting elections in the state's largest county. And also here is Republican Maricopa County Supervisor Bill Gates, who as supervisor helps set county policies on elections. I know all three of you really well. I've gotten to know you over years. I have to tell you, I work with election officials all over the country. I don't think it's going too far to say that the three of you are inspirations to a lot of them, as we've seen so much delegitimization of our election process over the last several years, and all of you have pushed back constantly with truth and transparency. I think about the 2020 election a lot, and one of the things that strikes me is that somehow you and your colleagues, hundreds of thousands of election officials all over the country, somehow managed the highest turnout in American history in the middle of a global pandemic. It's simply remarkable. We should have thanked you and congratulated you for everything that got done. And instead, as we've just seen and discussed, you and your colleagues have experienced abuse, threats, and harassment for 3+ years. You continue to face lies about the election process, efforts to get voters to doubt our process, efforts that often feed into narratives that we're hearing from foreign adversaries that want us to distrust our democracy. Secretary Fontes, I want to start with you. You've actually overseen elections at the county level and at the state level now. You have unique experience, really remarkable experience. Why should Arizona voters trust the process?
Well, first, David, thanks for having us, and thanks for having this discussion, and welcome to everyone. The process is really more about the people, and I think the people who do the work, actually lots of people right now, all over Arizona are getting ready for Election Day tomorrow for our presidential preference election. Those people are citizens, just like you and everybody else here. These people have taken an oath to follow the law and to move forward with the process of preserving our democracy. They're the same folks who've been doing it year in, year out, in most cases for quite some time, and in many cases for decades. And what we found ourselves with is not a shifting of policy, not a shifting of players, but a shifting of the narrative. And I think what we really have here are some of the best elections in the United States of America. And I will point out that the 2020 election that we ran here in Maricopa County, Bill was on the board at the time, I was the county recorder. Stephen actually beat me in my reelection bid for that election to take his office, was and is the single most highly scrutinized election in American history. In fact, in the history of the globe, no election has ever seen so much scrutiny, and yet we have zero evidence of anything that went wrong with it. Our elections have been, are, and I believe will be safe and secure as long as we focus on the people who are running those elections.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point about the people, and it's interesting because you two did run against each other. Stephen, you were in a position where you stood up for the integrity of an election that you didn't run. And Adrian, you stood up for the integrity of an election in 2020 that you lost. Because of that.
Very narrowly, David.
Very narrowly, that's absolutely right.
Landslide. Landslide.
And it's true that these are our neighbors. These are the people who run elections are the parents of the kids our kids go to school with. And the inability to kind of process and accept an election result where your candidate lost in a nation, in a state, in a county that is as closely divided as you can possibly imagine is still, I know, somewhat baffling to the people who are doing this hard work day in and day out. Stephen, you actually manage a lot of the nuts and bolts of running an election in Maricopa County, along with Bill and his colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. Can you talk a little bit about why voters in your county and throughout Arizona should be confident about how elections are run?
Right, so I'm responsible for the early voting component and the voter registration component, and I team with the Board of Supervisors, 5-member board, different partisan affiliations represented on that board and at the Secretary of State level and the 15 counties. And I think that's the first reason why you can have confidence in the election system. And this isn't just true of Maricopa County or true of Arizona. It's true of all 8,000 plus voting jurisdictions in the United States, that not one single one of them is just run by Republicans or just run by Democrats. They are bipartisan operations. So 1, bipartisan. 2, transparent. There are so many opportunities for people who want to know more about the system to learn more about the system, both before the election or during the election. You can be a worker at Maricopa County or any of the counties. You can be a partisan poll watcher. We have people who are watching our voting locations 26 days before the election day. It's like watching paint dry, but we have Republican Party observers there, Democratic Party observers there. And then lastly, trust but verify. Nobody says, oh, just trust the machines because they look pretty good. Or trust Adrian because he seems like a nice guy. And so for every single step of the process, there are tests before and after. And I think one that especially gets to the core of some of the allegations from the 2020 election is with respect to what the board oversees is tabulation. And that's that tests are done before by the Secretary of State's office, overseen by the political parties. After the election, the political parties do a hand count audit of the tabulated results, and that's true of all processes throughout the election. So bipartisan, transparent, and tested. And I think that those are the core building blocks for why you can trust elections, not just in Arizona, because we're facing this maybe heavier than other states just because we have such close elections, but we know that many of our colleagues have faced this, and while some of their elections might be a little bit different, they all have those 3 same core principles.
That's such an important point. I think it's one of the things that often gets lost in some of the conversations is we have all of these different election jurisdictions all over the country. You have multiple counties here in Arizona. You've got different states with different rules sometimes. Some states have well over 1,000 election jurisdictions in them. But there are so many common elements that ensure voters, regardless of where they are, regardless of whether their election official happens to be Republican or Democratic, that the transparency and verification really plays such a big role. Bill, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about this, because one of the things I've seen from all 3 of you, and you've perhaps exemplified this better than anyone, is the way you embrace transparency, the way you really want to bring people in and show them the process and engage with people who might disagree with you or have doubts. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's been a part of your job?
Yeah, I thought the package in the beginning did a good job of discussing some of the questions that are out there, right? And that's fair for people to ask questions, to have concerns. There is, in a lot of ways, this process, people might not necessarily see all steps in it. So we could have, hidden a corner and just said, trust us, and we went the other way as a county. The board, Stephen, Adrian, all said we need to be transparent. And so, particularly in the 2022 election, we had dealt with the 2020 election. We knew that the eyes of the world were going to be on us. And so we held over a dozen press conferences. Stephen and I were in many of those press conferences where not only did we explain the processes, but we actually started to anticipate some of the conspiracies that were going to be presented out there by others who would like to cause discord. And so we said, when you hear this, here's what's really going on. And also, election security was something else that was very important. We wanted people to feel secure at the vote centers, and then also for our election workers who do this great work. You know, our aunts, our grandmothers who work on this, to know that they are safe. And so we're fortunate to have the sheriff stand up with us, Paul Penzone, and talk about the protections that are in place, because we don't want one person to refrain from voting because they feel like they're not secure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the security aspect and the verifiability of the elections is really important. It's really been at the heart of some of the disinformation that Arizonans have been subjected to. But sometimes we don't focus on something else about Arizona, and that's that it's exceptionally easy to vote in Arizona. For an eligible voter to get on the lists, to get a ballot, to cast it at a time of their choosing is really easy. My organization, the Center for Election Innovation and Research, is going to release a report tomorrow about how early and mail voting have really evolved since 2000 and really spread to almost all of the states. And most voters, the vast majority, have access to options to vote early or by mail well in advance of Election Day. But this is something that Arizonans have had for a long time, and really in many ways led the nation in this. And it was really bipartisan. It was something that was embraced by both parties as a way to increase access and also probably get their own voters out, right? Adrian, you've been involved with this for quite some time at different levels. Can you talk a little bit about how easy it is for Arizonans to vote and maybe talk directly to Arizona's voters who might be on the fence about participating in an election about how it's so convenient to take advantage of the vote here?
Well, you're 100% right that Arizona has been at the forefront of election administration innovation for voters for a long time. We started no excuse absentee voting back in 1991-92 timeframe. We were the first state to adopt online voter registration. We have expanded our use of vote centers, which didn't start in Maricopa County, by the way. Under my administration, we started it here. Stephen has expanded it, but we got that from Yavapai County, Arizona, deep red Prescott area, Yavapai County. And so all across Arizona, our voters have been able to vote with ease, and they've been able to even track their own ballots, which is technology that we are now launching across the state, which Maricopa County has had for some time and Pima County has had for a couple of years. Arizona's voters, I think, have a really interesting space in the political world, but we, at least I do, separate the political stuff from the election administration stuff, right? It's sort of like, these are the rules of the game over here, and these are the teams. Let the teams play it out. But the rules are pretty solid, and they've been very pro-voter for a long time, David. And my predecessor, actually, Helen Purcell, was at the vanguard of this, really making early voting available, advocating to make sure that voters could get their ballot in the mail, sit and contemplate their choices, get the signature verification done well, which is happening a lot. And by the way, the folks that train our signature verifiers are the same folks that train the FBI signature folks, right? And so we have all these systems and all these redundancies that I'm sure we'll speak more of. But just know this, Arizona voters, we're just like you. We want to make sure that the game is solid, that the rules are followed, that the law is followed. And I think what people can take a little bit of comfort in is sort of the record of 2020 and 2022. The opening package that Bill mentioned talked about all of these lawsuits and all of these challenges. And you'd think that after all of those attacks, something could be found that was wrong if there was. And it's a testament to those people that I mentioned earlier, all those election workers that do their level best every day to make sure that our elections run well, and they do it for Arizona's voters. I'm very, very proud of the election administration family in Arizona, and I think all Arizonans should be that proud.
And you should be proud also in the bipartisan tradition of those individuals. There are so many Republicans and Democrats who have come together to stand for those principles, as you mentioned, and their work has withstood that over 3 years of scrutiny, and all of the court cases and all of the opportunities in defamation cases for people to bring evidence to prove that the election was allegedly stolen, as they alleged. And we sit here now, well over 1,200 days since that election. There's still not a shred of evidence that's been presented to any court anywhere in the country that there was anything that would call into question the outcome of the 2020 election. And that's actually really remarkable because, as you pointed out, there's never been so much scrutiny on an election, probably in the history of the world.
Well, and the scrutiny notwithstanding, the people that actually do this in a bipartisan way really want Arizona's voters to get engaged. When I was sitting in Stevens' seat in Maricopa County, I wanted to have a mobile van that we could move around the county, or 2 or 3, to register voters and get them voting. And it wasn't the Democratic Maricopa County recorder that made it happen. It was the Republican Pinal County recorder who had the first mobile voter registration and voting van happen in Arizona. This election administration family is A, bipartisan, B, pro-voter, and that's one of the reasons why I really think people should get more engaged and get past the doubts, because it's just Arizonans who are doing this, and the workers that are making it happen really deserve that fair shake.
Yeah, and you three are all not just engaged with election officials in Arizona, but also nationally, and that goes beyond Arizona's borders, right? The professionalism, the commitment to transparency, regardless of your party, is something we see nationwide. Sure. I'd like to ask the two of you, Stephen and Bill, what are the protections in place here in Arizona, and you also know what happens nationwide, but Arizona is a great example of it, to ensure that only eligible voters can get on the voter list, only eligible voters can receive a ballot, that they receive only one ballot, that ballot is returned by them? How can you explain to Arizona voters how confident you are in that process?
Well, sure. How much time do we have?
We got plenty. Go for it.
Come take a tour. We do lots of tours, and some of you have joined us on some of those tours. So a lot goes into elections, but some of the core principles I've already laid out. But I would say you have to be a registered voter in Arizona to be able to vote. So it starts there. And you can't just register your dog. It has to be a real person. We check that with the Department of Vital Statistics. We check that with the Social Security Administration, with the Motor Vehicle Division. We make sure that you're in an actual plottable location. We send you a voter registration card. If it comes back as undeliverable, we can't put you on the voter rolls. We then send you, for every election, if you're an early voter by mail, then we'll send you a ballot packet. If that ballot packet can't get delivered, then we're going to move you eventually to inactive status. If, for whatever reason, somebody calls in and says, I didn't get my ballot packet because maybe, I don't know, someone swiped it, got to the mailbox before I did, heaven forbid. If we ever noticed that in large scale, we'd of course alert the police and we would investigate, but we've never had any instances of that happening in large scale. Once you get that ballot packet, you have a specially assigned envelope, that green return envelope that is assigned to you as a voter. It has a barcode. It loads a vote to your profile as soon as you send it back. So if you tried to show up in person and vote, you wouldn't be able to vote in person. If you tried to send back, if you said, I spilled coffee on my first ballot, send me another one. If you tried to send back both, only one of those barcodes would be active. We also do signature verification. We do signature verification by humans, in fact. In fact, a lot of people are working on it right now as we speak, and it's a labor-intensive process. And by the way, that is not necessarily typical of other Western states that will use software to do signature verification, but we do signature verification through multiple levels. Only then will you open the envelope and it will go to a bipartisan team that will take it out. And then I've already talked about some of the security built into the tabulation system, but so there are layers and layers, and of course all of this is documented through a chain of custody. And this process has been iterative. This process didn't start with Stephen and Bill. This process didn't start with Adrian. This process, it's hard to believe that there was something before Helen.
I was going to say, it might have started with Helen.
But so I do think that we are getting better and better. And just to Adrian and David's point, since taking office, I have not seen any suggestion that there is significant voter fraud or significant voter disenfranchisement in Arizona. And I sometimes get sort of a mixed reception on that. And I'm like, that's a great thing that's there. And that is not true of American history. We know that there have been periods of mass voter disenfranchisement. We know there was periods of machine politics in which the vote was rigged. I actually think, despite the narrative going like this, elections in the United States are getting better and better and better and more verifiable and more verifiable. And you've played a part in that. We're playing some parts in that in Arizona, but others after we leave are going to play more parts in that, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And one thing, David, I'd like to add to that is we're talking about 2024 and what the experience is going to be for the voter is not only is it safe and secure and verifiable, but we've also made it a better experience. We've been very focused on customer service. First, as it relates to the options. I would argue that in Arizona, voters have more options than they have in any other state in the union. You want to vote early in your robe at home? You can do that. You want to vote in person early? You can do that. You want to vote on election day in person. You love going and taking your kids with you. You can do that. And then in addition to that, some work that Adrian and Stephen have worked along with the board is being able to track this in real time. We're used to getting a lot of information on our phones, text messages. Now, I'm sure many of you here in the audience have had that experience. If you've signed up for the service, your ballot is being prepared. You're getting a text message. Your ballot is being mailed to you. You get a text. Now you send it in and they receive it. You get another text message. And I find that that's something that people really appreciate. We understand that people are busy. They don't have a lot of time to mess around with this. And so we've really done things to make it a more positive experience for our voters as well.
Yeah, and that's really important. I think we often forget that the only time in a 4-year period where more than half of eligible voters actually show up to vote is a presidential election. We're going to see that in November. But we never hit 50%, pretty much never hit 50% even in these in other elections. And so demonstrating this commitment to customer service is, I think, really important. That feedback loop can keep people engaged and hopefully get more of them participating. One of the things, we're going to talk about disinformation in a little while. I want to get into that much more broadly because Arizona has been really, unfortunately, ground zero for some of the lies and rumors that have been spread on social media. But there's one claim in particular that I've been fascinated by, which is the claim that it's taking too long to count the ballots. This is something we hear all the time. We hear that, we always knew who won on election night. Why is it taking days now? As if we forgot about the Florida election of 2000. As if we've forgotten about the fact that the Constitution itself says that, for instance, the presidential electors don't meet until about a month and a half after the election. So there's enough time to count the ballots and confirm the results. Let's talk a little bit, and I'll start with you again, Bill, and then go to you, Stephen. Talk a little bit about what you're doing to address the legitimate concerns about trying to count the ballots as quickly as you can, while also accounting for integrity. You want to do it right. It's better to get it right than fast, but maybe you might be moving a little bit towards both directions. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important issue to folks. We understand that they're concerned that it takes so long for the networks to call races in Arizona. That's not because we're doing anything wrong at the different counties. It's not that we're breaking the law. It's simply that these races are extremely close. So that's number one. Number two, we don't have all the ballots in. We cannot tabulate all of the ballots on election night. Again, we're not doing anything wrong. In fact, we're doing everything right. For example, in the 2022 election, we had 290,000 ballots, mail-in ballots dropped off on election day at the polling places. We are not in a position to tabulate them on our side of the house because Stephen's team needs to get those in. He needs to go through the signature verification. They do a wonderful job of it. But again, and I can't underline this enough, if I have a choice between speed and accuracy, I'm going to pick accuracy all day long.
And to be fair, also, I mean, Stephen's team can't start verifying and you can't start counting until you have the ballot. And if the ballot is returned late in the day on election day, that process is going to start at that time. And so depending on what the volume is, it might take some time.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want people to know that it is the goal of this team, the Board of Supervisors and Stephen's team in Maricopa County that we will have 99% of the ballots counted by Friday afternoon. And so, again, with all of the different legal requirements that we have, that is a goal that we believe that we can achieve. But we have also taken measures in Maricopa County. We have invested funds to expand our operations at Maricopa County to speed this up. But the reality is that a lot of these laws that could really speed up the process, that's in the hands of the state legislature. And I don't mean to criticize them at all, but they have decided between the state legislature and the governor to not make certain changes that, you know, may have sped things up. But working within the confines of the law that we have, making the investments that we have, I'm confident that we'll be able to hit that goal.
Stephen, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, okay, so you can change the law, and by the way, there's not consensus here, and that's something that can be debated. Should you roll up the early voting deadline such that you can have a higher percentage, or should you accommodate that convenience of being able to drop it off until 7 p.m. on election night? There's differing policy. As long as we all agree and we understand the system, that's fine. We haven't changed the law. 2, you can change voter behavior. So Lindsay knows in our household, you better get that ballot out within 48 hours of it being on our kitchen household. That's the rule in our household. If you all did that, then we could have 99% of ballots available at 8 p.m. on election night. So if you have fully formed thoughts about, say, presidential candidates, then I'd encourage you to get your ballots back, well, before today. So that's another way. Then the thing that we can control is, or we can at least make some improvements on, is really credit to the Board of Supervisors who have allocated a lot of resources to just being able to expand our facilities, to throw more bodies on it, such that when that rush of ballots comes, we don't compromise the integrity of the system by saying, oh, just don't signature verify it. And heavens knows, lots of people have accused Maricopa County of just not doing signature verification, but then they simultaneously say you should go faster, which is a little bit rich. So we have said we're not going to compromise on that, but we're going to be able to throw more bodies on it, and that means we have more space for this one. We have more people who are going to be working that late night shift. But it's still, look, if it's going to be a race that's decided by fewer than 600 votes, as our Attorney General contest was in 2022, like, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to get to 99.9% before you can call that race, because if the last batch of ballots comes in and it breaks heavily for the other candidate who's not winning, then the media stations are going to wait to make that call. And that can be frustrating because someone will say, you know, it's different in Florida.
Adrian?
Yeah, David, I think one of the things that we're forgetting here is Maricopa County has actually counted its ballots, generally speaking, in just about the same period of time for a long time. But it has grown incredibly over that same period of time. And the number of ballots that have to be counted has also grown incredibly. So that's one thing I think folks need to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. We actually are, particularly in Maricopa County, counting those ballots a lot faster than we were. Here's another factor that's important. It's a lot more important to folks because, as you mentioned, the margins are so much tighter. You know, when Senator McCain, may he rest in peace, years ago was winning elections by 25 points, right? Everybody just kind of knew where it was going to go. But as we did also understand, the projections from those times were that the politics in Arizona is going to change. The people are going to change a little bit. And as the margins narrow and narrow and narrow, you can't just mathematically predict these things as quickly as possible, even though it's taking about the same amount of time to count way more ballots. So when you take the actual factors into account, Maricopa County is doing a pretty doggone good job. Yeah. And kudos to the board and to Stephen and his operation. They're doing even better than when I was the county recorder. And that's saying something. So, but I think we got to have the whole thing. I think we got to put the whole thing into context when we talk about this particular issue.
Go ahead, Steve.
I would say this is just one of the ways in which the federalized system actually is working against us, because in eastern states you will have almost everyone vote in person, meaning that at the end of the night, It'll be, the memory drive will be removed, and all those votes will be loaded up. In Western United States, we're actually faster than Utah. We're actually faster than Oregon. We're actually faster than Washington. We're actually faster than California, because those are heavy mail states, some of which allow you to return your ballot actually as long as you postmark it on election night. Now, what's different than those states? It's that Oregon, Washington, those are usually states where you can call the presidential contest with 60% in. So those are the states in which we sort of measure ourselves against, and I think we did well in 22 and 20, but I think we're going to do even better in 24.
I'm so glad you raised that, because it's exactly the point I wanted to raise. At 8:01 Pacific time on November 5th, 2024, all of the media organizations are going to call California right when the polls close. California will have probably around 99% of their ballots still left to count at that moment. By the way, a lot of states are going to have a lot of ballots left to count at that moment, right when the polls close. The only reason people in California think they're counting ballots faster when it actually takes them a bit longer, that's a policy choice they've made, is because the margins are huge, which brings us to perception and how much it governs so much of the work that you do now, despite the fact the reality is as strong and secure and accessible as we've talked about. The perception by some, having been fueled by lies and rumors and false claims for so long, is the exact opposite. And I think we watched the video at the beginning that talked about how those lies fueled problems for Arizona for quite some time in the past. I want to talk a little bit about what we expect for 2024, what we expect that domestic actors, perhaps losing candidates or candidates who think they're going to lose, and even our foreign adversaries who are highly incentivized to get us to delegitimize our own election and delegitimize the idea of democracy, what they might be doing in the lead up to November 2024. And Adrian, you've been leading a lot on this nationally as well as in Arizona. I'd like to go to you first and talk about what you're a little bit worried about and what you're doing to prepare.
Well, first and foremost, I think we have to understand that our adversaries, both foreign and domestic, they just want to see a mess. They want us to mistrust one another because our society, the American Republic, this great experiment is built on faith. It's built on a civic faith that we have among one another, that officials are going to follow their oath, that they're going to do the job that they've been tasked with. But that applies to everybody. Everybody in this room. On your way over here, you had faith that when the light turned green, the other person wasn't going to come through the intersection. You might have been a little cautious. When you go to a restaurant, you have faith that the health inspections have gone relatively well. When we do all of our lives, we operate on faith. And so our adversaries want us to mistrust one another. They want us to be divided, particularly our foreign adversaries. So we got to look at their motivation first. Weakening the United States of America is the motive. Strength in the United States of America means we believe in one another and we have faith. And so it doesn't matter if it's dis or malinformation. It doesn't matter if it's artificial intelligence exploding the capacity for these messages to get out there so much quicker, penetrating that much deeper into our awareness. What really matters is the reason behind all of it. The things that worry me are that we might, as Americans, lose faith in one another because of the lies, because of the misinformation and disinformation, because of the conspiracy theories that have been proven over and over and over again to be untrue. So that's a little bit broad, but at the end of the day, what bothers me the most is the fact that so many Americans are succumbing to the purposeful destruction of the civic faith that we have in each other as Americans.
Right, and as we've talked about, that faith is reinforced by actual, transparent, verifiable policies that people can observe, either as observers or especially, and you guys talked about this, as poll workers, like volunteer and see it from the inside and see all the things that are going on. Now, you've also led some efforts to kind of prepare for disinformation and things that might come to Arizona and even nationwide. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I find what you're doing fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're familiar with law enforcement or military tabletop exercises, you get a bunch of folks together and you go through what would be the normal activity, and then you do what's called injects, and you set different circumstances in. It's sort of like role-playing. It's like Dungeons and Dragons for election administrators.
Why'd you look at me?
I know, it ain't Hogwarts, but it'll get close. In any event, we assembled over 200 election administrators and folks attached to the activities from across the entire state of Arizona in December of 2023 with the help of Maricopa County, loaned us some equipment. We had a whole bunch of people together, election administrators, county administrators, we had law enforcement, we had some of our vendors were there, we had national partners, there were observers from the Department of Justice and congressional observers as well. And we put them through a tabletop exercise, two parts of which, one was the several months leading up to Election Day, threw some injects in so that people would kind of do some disaster planning of their own, figure out who they're going to communicate with, where they were going to go for certain resources, and how to react to certain uncertainties, if you will. The second part was an Election Day scenario, which was a little bit more exciting. And during the course of all of this, we had experts in artificial intelligence create a deepfake of myself, of another election administrator in Arizona, of one of our security personnel. Some of them were voice only, some of them were video. Some of them had that other election administrator speaking in Mandarin and in German, so we could show folks these are some of the potential threats that we have discussions about the way that we might deal with them together. But we're not just stopping there. We're continuing. We're going to have a tabletop exercise across Arizona in different locations for law enforcement agencies. We're going to create one that's going to happen in early May for members of the media so they can see and figure out how to communicate with trusted sources in election administration so that we can react properly. We've got to be prepared for everything, and that means we've got to be prepared for anything.
Did your deepfake beat Stephen in 2020?
Wow, Dave.
Sorry, too soon.
Yes, but it was a very narrow victory.
So I often think about the election threat environment as in two broad phases. One, the phase leading up to the close of polls, and the phase after the close of polls to delegitimize the outcome. And you both are going to be intimately involved with both those phases. Do you have any particular concerns about disinformation that might be directed particularly at voters in the lead up to the election? I sometimes worry about disinformation that might be might mislead them about the process, about how to participate. And then if you have any thoughts on the post-election disinformation environment, what that might mean.
So, one thing that I would add is that, we have so many different sources of information out there on the internet, social media, and we don't know what the intent is of those people who are posting there. And so that's why I'm really trying to drive people to trusted sources. I think that is extremely important. I can tell you, we were involved in a exercise with AI chatbots, and we know what we found from that is that a lot of that election information was wrong. And so for us here at Maricopa, go to maricopa.gov. Listen to those trusted sources where we can provide that information. I'm particularly concerned about the deep fakes like Adrian talked about. And so we're ready for that. We're focused on it as well. We've hired an AI expert at Maricopa County to work with our IT team to make sure that we understand what's going on out there and we can protect the voters.
Stephen, do you have any thoughts?
No, I guess I don't think about it too much. We all know it's going to happen. We try to get as much good information out there because we can control that, and we respond. We respond when it gets to a certain level. We certainly try hard. I guess I would just say, if there's, we've tried a lot of stuff. I think that Bill and I have just tried to throw everything at the wall. But if there's anything that you think of that would improve, or you, the voter, think of that would improve your confidence, we really want to help. And now's the time because this will be a big election in Arizona. We'll figure prominently in here. But if there's anything, even if you're starting at a 2 and we can only get you to a 4 out of 10, we'd love to do it. So if you have any ideas, except for TikTok, we might not be able to do TikTok. But if you have any ideas outside of that for things that would actually improve, if you're somebody who's honest with yourself and you're like, no, I'm lost, and I'm never going to have confidence in it, then that saddens all three of us. But there's not much that we can do. But if you come to us and say, I'm a good faith interested in, I have these doubts, then Bill and I, a lot of those people are our friends and continue to be our friends. And I don't know anyone in our elections community who would say, well, no, just you can't. go on Reddit or whatever instead. So if there's stuff that we can do, let us know. We're always looking to innovate, and it's been a real priority.
And maybe I can just follow up. Stephen and I are Republicans, and I want to talk to the Republicans out there. We understand that people have concerns, and it's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. But what we would ask is that you have an open mind, you have open ears, you ask us those questions. We'll do what we can to respond to those. And I have no problem at all. If people are seeing problems, we want to know about them. For years, I actually worked as a election day lawyer for the Republican Party, and I was the one going in to seeing if fraud is going on. And if people have examples and evidence, we want them to go to court. But when it's done, when the court has ruled, it has to be over, and people have to start accepting the results.
Yeah. I hope, maybe I came into this a little naive, you would probably say so, as far as some of the things. But when I first took office, Bill and I would talk to our Republican friends who at that point I thought, well, it's just a matter of more information. And the number one thing they said at that time was tabulation, Dominion in particular, tabulation. And the county, led by the Board of Supervisors, didn't have to, but they called in 2 independent certified elections technologies experts to spend 2 weeks with the tabulation equipment. And so if there's stuff like that, but we've got to have people coming in as good faith actors. I have concerns about the tabulation equipment. Okay, if we do this, will that help? Yes, that will help. Then great, then we can do that all day long. But tell us where and come to it with good faith.
Yeah. I think one of the other things, if I could just kind of piggyback on here, is really an understanding of the basics is not super easy in these very complicated systems, because particularly in a county like Maricopa, it's huge. You're talking about millions of ballots coming in, and all of what needs to happen to support that. Generally speaking, in Arizona, however, I think one of the critical components is that the voter pays attention to the basics. What are the really basic things that election administrators in Arizona do? And Stephen did a great job at the top of the show, really counting out those principles. When we stick to the basics, we're going to be in good shape. So we can talk all day about misinformation and trust and all these other things, but those election administrators in all 15 of our counties are working on the basics. They're training up for the basics, bringing those new folks in, and we do it constantly. An election cycle for us is about 720 days long, which is only 20 days of a break at some point after an election, and then we start it all over again. This is important for folks to know. We take care of the basics, and we'd like folks to really reach in and figure out what it is that they're questioning. Example, paper ballots. Well, guess what? Arizona's been an all-paper ballot state for a long time. Voting machines. There is no such thing. We've got tabulators, we had scanners, we've got all kinds of things, but there's no such thing as a voting machine in Arizona. These sorts of things are the basics, and so we're really hoping that folks will reach out. In Maricopa, it's maricopa.gov. For the rest of the state, you can go to arizona.vote and learn, and that's what we're really hoping folks will do.
So I want to go to a last topic and then hopefully get some questions in. And this is something I know has affected all 3 of you, but the attacks and harassment directed at the professionals who run elections in Arizona and nationwide have touched all of you. And I was wondering, I should first say I work with election officials all over the country. And if you ask election officials how they got into becoming an election official, almost all of them will say it was by accident. They found some path there, and once they got there, they found a calling. And the ones that stay are the ones who are defined by that calling. And some of them are conservative Republicans, and some of them are liberal Democrats, and everything in between. And to see these professionals who are never paid well, who never get accolades when everything goes great. There's never a headline on the Wednesday after an election, everything went great, right? If everything goes great, they're not talking about the election anymore. And to see election officials all over the country, I think really exemplified by the 3 of you, attacked, really disturbs me. It really disturbs me about what it says about us as Americans and the common fiber we should all feel towards each other. Bill, you in particular, I think, have spoken very honestly about this. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what you've experienced and its effect on you and your family?
Yeah, well, David, I appreciate everything you've just said there and that you've said to speak in sort of defense of people in elections. But first of all, I want to talk about, the three of us, we ran for office. We put our names out there. We sort of knew that we might be subject to criticism, harassment, things like that. But what particularly bothers me is people who have chosen this as a profession. They're not running for office. They're doing their jobs, but because we believe in transparency and we have live stream cameras in our elections facilities, people go online and they see these employees doing something. They don't understand it, and they claim that this is fraud. This is a crime that these workers are committing. And then people send they find out their names, and they send them the most vile threats, the most vile emails. I think that is awful, and my heart goes out to them. I know all of us up here have dealt with death threats, not only to us, but to our families. It's wrong. We shouldn't have to deal with this. No one should have to deal with this in America. We're just doing our jobs. We're just following the law. If we had committed a crime, if we had engaged in some sort of corruption, that'd be one thing. But none of these folks did in elections. And so we can't normalize this. We can't normalize the threats. And that's why all of us have spoken up on this and pushed back, because this isn't just about elections. This is about our civilization. And we have normalized this type of behavior far beyond elections. And it's wrong. And if we have to stand up as elections officials, then we'll do it, because there's just too much on the line.
Yeah. Stephen, you've been the subject of threats that have been even prosecuted?
Yeah, so in the last 6 months, 6 people have been arrested in connection to threats made to Maricopa County elections personnel. Alabama, Missouri, San Diego, Lubbock, Texas, Iowa, Phoenix. And those people, look, it's a poor life choice, and over 1,500 people are spending time in prison now because of believing these lies. So those people, you're a loser. Don't do it. But the people who are, so it's hurting those people. It's hurting the election officials who are sometimes the front row rowers. But the people who are getting off scot-free are the people who are stirring this up, who are the leaders who have millions of followers, and then they say, oh, I never told anyone to threaten to kill somebody. You must have the moral consequentialism of a 3-year-old if you can't envision that when you say they have committed the crime of the century, they have stolen our election, and you broadcast that to millions of people, that one of them is going to think to do something really horrible. And so I just think that this, like so many things, falls on leaders, and leaders to be more responsible. And I think that there are some leaders who should go visit those people in prison and say, I screwed up your life. You made poor choices, but I screwed up your life. And I think that there needs to be more thinking about that.
Adrian, any last words on that?
Well, I think it's incredibly important that we recognize that we don't really represent election administrators well, insofar as about 2/3, if not more, of the folks who actually do this work nationwide are women. And the nature of the threats that they have had to endure. I remember the Detroit City Clerk was sitting testifying next to me in the House Administration Committee once, talking about getting home and having a guy follow her from her car towards her home, and she was by herself. This is not how we America. This is, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is the very definition of domestic terrorism. And I've called on the Department of Justice and the FBI to really get in there and be more active in deterring this sort of behavior. Because this isn't how we operate in the United States of America. We've got to be able to win, we've got to be able to lose, do it with grace, do it with dignity. As far as the threats against myself and my children and my family, we could talk about that all day long. But the bottom line is this. As you've indicated, it says a lot about us as a country, but I think it's a very tiny minority of us who are actually engaging in this. I think the vast majority of Americans are good people of goodwill who maybe in some cases have bought into some mistruths and have been misled. But those folks who choose that next step, it's a very narrow portion of us. So I don't want us to lose hope. I don't want us to be so downtrodden in these very negative experiences that we can't move forward with our chests out and our chins up, knowing that there's going to be a better tomorrow at some point. We've just got to work for it.
Yeah, that's such an important point. We forget that there were 74 million people who voted for the candidate who happened to lose the last election. And they're not all insurrectionists. The vast majority are good Americans. They are understandably disappointed in the results. I mean, who among us hasn't been disappointed in an election result in our life? That is what happened.
I was when he beat me.
I can imagine. Unfortunately, Stephen might have been disappointed in that result, too.
Sometimes you get what you wish for.
But, yeah, exactly.
I think I've paid my penance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you have.
But there is, the work you all do to educate and inform and to talk with those, the people who might have the doubts, as you pointed out, and to push back on this hopefully very small percentage who have engaged in activity that is decidedly un-American, right? I mean, this is, and it's not just against election officials. We see this against other institutions. We see this against the judiciary. We see this against law enforcement. We see this against healthcare. We see this against teachers. We see this in various areas that should give us concern. But when we see people like you standing up to it, I think it gives us all a lot more confidence in the process. I know we're running short in time right now, so I don't know if we have time for a single question, but we'll try to get to it. No? I'm being told no. Thank you all. I will tell you in my work, I've done this for a long time. I never thought we'd be having to have these conversations. You three are an inspiration to me and to a lot of people who work in this space. I know a lot of those people who you've met also inspire you and to continue that work. So thank you for what you're doing. Arizona's voters are lucky to have the three of you. Thanks. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
I'll be back to you.
Gentlemen, excellent information, great discussion there. You are watching Arizona PBS Special AZ Votes 2024, where we have been speaking with election officials about the issues that they face and how they have been working to run fair, efficient elections. I'm your host, Heather Moore, and we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're going to have the second hour of our show, and that's when we're going to hear from our local journalists who have been covering our elections over the past few years, and we're going to hear their take on elections problems.
When you want to discover more, experience more, learn more, be more, Arizona PBS delivers. Thanks to members like...
The way humans make sense of the world is through stories. We've got to go ahead and start training to go to Mars.
And lift off.
We pay tribute to all who serve and who have served.
Civilization is precious. Life is precious.
Artists here are making a difference. I'm trying to seek redemption.
Tomorrow, after polls close in the presidential preference election, don't miss a special results-focused episode of Arizona Horizon. Watch live on Arizona PBS at 10 p.m. or stream live via the @Arizona PBS Facebook page or at AZ PBS Now YouTube channel.
Tomorrow at 10 on Arizona PBS. You're watching Arizona PBS, a member-supported community service of Arizona State University.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the second half of our Arizona PBS 2-hour special, AZ Votes 2024. I'm Heather Moore. In this special, we are taking a look at our elections problems and how we got to the point where elections are not trusted by a certain segment of our electorate, despite the best efforts of our election officials. And we just heard from them. Next, we're going to turn to reporters who've been covering our election problems as they happened. Arizona Horizon host and managing editor Ted Simons will now speak with 3 journalists who have spent years covering our elections. Ted?
Great. Thank you, Heather. And tonight we are indeed joined by 3 local journalists who have worked to better inform the public about Arizona's elections. Some of these journalists
have faced backlash for their efforts to report what is really going on amid a relentless tide of misinformation from a variety of sources. Joining us now, Jen Fifield of VoteBeat, Jim Small of the Arizona Mirror, and Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com. Panel, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're following a great discussion from state and local election leaders and officials regarding so many different aspects of the election, aspects that as journalists you got to cover. You got to have some handle on. Jen, we'll start with you. Considering everything that has happened hither and yon, are you covering things? Are you doing it differently this year?
You know, I think this year it's going to be about unapologetic honesty, right? If things go wrong, they go wrong, you say it. If things go right, you say it. You don't allow lies to spread quickly. You just take them and you say the truth. I feel like we've learned, Arizona journalists have learned how important it is to do that, and we're better prepared. We know more about elections to do that this time.
Yeah, what do you think, Jim? Is anything going to change this go-around from elections past?
In terms of how we approach it? Yes, I mean, I think so. I think that Jen's right. I think that we've all seen, we've all still been covering the 2022 election, right? I mean, we're all still covering the litigation that's coming out of that, and some of the litigation started before the election. And I think that we have a sense of knowing that there's going to be something that happens. And there's going to be, you know, to Jen's point, there's going to be lies that are going to come out, and it's going to be incumbent upon us up here, all of us, and all of our colleagues in the media, to really jump on that and to make sure that, you know, you're trying to broadcast the truth as quickly as possible and as loud as possible and as frequently as you can.
The surprise element shouldn't be there this go around, should it?
Oh.
Well, Mary Jo disagrees, please.
There's always going to be a surprise. I mean, something's going to happen, as the previous panel talked about. I mean, you know, the elections are run by humans. There are errors that happen. They're not intentional necessarily. I mean, hard to prove that they're intentional, but I mean, I expect that there would be a surprise.
Yeah, and when I meant surprise, I meant disinformation surprise. I meant things being said and accusations being made. I mean, better prepared, Jen, this go around for that?
I think so. I think that we've at least got a better grasp of how elections work. You know, the county's been doing tours for media. They've been doing monthly press conferences for, 4 years now. So I feel like everyone knows kind of what's coming for them.
And Mary Jo, we just heard from election officials. I'm trying to lay things out, and I thought they did very clearly, very well spoken. I mean, it's as close to black and white as you can get. Yeah. Is that message getting out?
Well, let's see what happens with tomorrow's election. But we just had elections in Tempe and Litchfield Park a week ago. I haven't heard any problems about stolen ballots or ballots that got eaten up by a machine. And I think what's different this year is that there's a lot more, like as Jen mentioned, you know, the county's done tours, that they're inviting people in, come look at how we do things. At the Arizona Republic, we've dedicated one of our weekly podcasts to talking about the minutia of elections. There's more of an effort to get people to understand the process. I think more messaging, like about the PPE, that really make sure you have to be a registered R or a registered D, you know, or else you can't vote. We'll see how that plays out tomorrow at the polls. But I think more of an effort to get education out there ahead of time.
Jim, from 2022 and 2020, from these elections, what did you learn? What lessons did you learn as a journalist?
I think that we learned, first and foremost, just we learned how these lies spread. We see them in real time. I mean, I remember in 2020 sitting, we were working from home for the election, and I remember sitting at my kitchen table covering the election, and we started seeing videos about Sharpies. And it happened on Twitter, and then it was on Facebook, and then it was suddenly everywhere. And within about an hour, we said, okay, well, we need to write a story about this. Not because something's actually happening, because it was pretty obvious something wasn't happening, but to basically try to get to the bottom of it and say, okay, what is happening? What are people claiming? And what is the reality actually of what's going on? Because we were aware as journalists that the county was using Sharpies, and that they had talked about it, and it was not a message, I don't think, that had gotten out to the public very well. And clearly, like Jen and Mary Jo are saying, that they're trying to do a much better job now of reaching out to the public and not just putting a statement on a website and letting it be. We saw how things really take a life of their own, and even if you're able to quickly jump on it and debunk some of this stuff, it still carries on. We're still hearing about Sharpies 4 years later, which is kind of wild to think of, that people are so committed to things like that.
But as a journalist, you have to be somewhat skeptical of everything, and that includes claims that you might initially, somewhere in the back of your mind, say, oh, come on, I can't go too deep with this. This is foolishness. Sharpies wasn't foolishness. It was a story that went on for quite a while. Lesson learned?
I think we see how these things escalate. I think we see that, it was almost funny at the time. What are all these claims about Sharpies? But now we know that those have been used in lawsuits, in attempts to, block election results. And also, I think of like the Dropbox watchers. That was a group that wanted to, started out, I think, almost good intention. They wanted to watch over Dropboxes, and then people showed up armed and with guns and body armor, and so we have seen multiple times now how these things can escalate over time.
When they escalate, Mary Jo, as a reporter covering this on a day-to-day basis, in so many different angles and so many different ways, when they escalate, how do you cover it? How do you figure out A, B, and C, which gets priority, which way you got to go? Because sometimes these things, again, are so fantastic, you got to figure out which one you're going to cover.
Oh, yeah. How do you prioritize it?
Yes.
I mean, it's a newsroom call, but you look at the ones that seem to be getting maybe more traction on social media. I mean, social media is everything now for how information spreads so quickly. And then you've got to decide, how you're going to approach it. Do you do the truth sandwich thing, where you sort of make the truest statement, then sandwich in between the false assertion to sort of correct it before it gets out there first? It is a game time decision, with all the stuff that's coming at you.
At the Arizona Mirror, game time decisions quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're all dealing with limited resources and limited number of people that can go out and do things and cover things. And you do really have to, I think like Mary Jo said, just kind of make a call in the moment, as to what seems like has the potential for escalating, what is maybe starting to get some traction online, honestly, what is being talked about maybe on some of the, the online talk shows and things like that. Like, what are people outside of Arizona glomming onto and starting to put out there? And I think that really drives a lot of eyeballs. It gets a lot of attention, and so that is, I think, at a certain point, kind of where we have to turn our attention as well.
And I think you have to be careful to not be too jaded. I mean, if we hear Sharpies again, oh my goodness, we got to go through this again. But there's a reason that's resonating, so it's probably best to address it. But, if we hear, these Dominion machines, they've been rigged, the outcome is predetermined. There's a tendency, because we've been doing this for a while, to say, well, that's just a bunch of bunk. Or show me the proof before I do anything on this.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Dominion, because we just recently back in the news, and I thought, man, I'd never thought I would hear Dominion again. And here we go. Jen, I want you to talk about this sovereign citizen, this group that served the Board of Supervisors here recently. That's, again, something that I think years ago you would go, okay, whatever. Not whatever anymore. They've served them with, what do they serve them with, by the way?
Well, first, this is another example of how things escalate. We've had protests at these supervisors meetings for months now. I think that this particular group has moved in the last month to cause a disturbance, perhaps because they know it's a venue, they can do that, they can get on TV, they're trying to draw attraction to themselves. This is a group that believes in common law. They don't believe in our laws. They believe that every person has a right to do things and not face our government's consequences, maybe their government's. And so they serve them with papers telling them that they violated their oath and they need to admit that and pay them millions of dollars. And so, it sounds, Jim's laughing, but this has caused an escalation of security. That's public taxpayer money going into security surrounding these meetings, and it's going to continue probably until after the election. So it's not, it's something to take seriously.
Yeah, it's something to take seriously, Jim.
I think when things move from that online sphere into the real world, and I think that's, when we talk about escalation, that's what we've seen a lot of, right? I mean, that's what we saw most visibly on January 6th, where things moved from the online talk about stolen elections and about what was going on in county ballots into something terrible. And we see that in terms of protests. We've all of us, I think, have covered a lot of those protests, around the county elections. And, a group like this is a prime example of that. I mean, the claims and the things that they're talking about are, I think, patently, kind of out there, right? Like, I think to most people, they'd hear that and go, that they're petitioning redress from a government they don't believe exists and has any control over them. Like, all of it kind of doesn't really make logical sense. But you have to be concerned, and I think that clearly the county is. I mean, you look at the security measures they've implemented, and reading some of the coverage of it. The Washington Post had a really big story on it today, all about the fear that really is kind of permeating through the county, and what they're afraid that this group might either themselves do or kind of be a harbinger of for other groups that are going to show up to do different and maybe more extreme things.
Is there fear among journalists who are covering elections and have to write about election rigging and point out what is and what is not fact?
I think with some, there's some hesitancy about that and how to deal with such threats. I mean, basically try to escalate it within your own. I mean, I work for a big organization, so we can escalate it up to to the higher levels of bureaucrats. But if there is fear, it doesn't stop you from doing what you got to do. I mean, we're there to tell the story and put out the facts, and too bad.
Yeah, neither fear nor favor, but gets your attention, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have felt it since 2020. This escalation of we're part of the deep state. We're contributing to the problem, and all of the threats being directed at individuals. It just makes you take more precautions in your life, but that you're there to tell the truth, and that's why you got into this.
The inevitable claims of election rigging that will be coming up here in elections forward. We know it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. The level, we're not quite sure. But when it comes to covering these stories, Jim, what do you do? Is it just the facts, or can you put some context in here to try to remind folks that this didn't happen? That claim simply, how many different ways can you say that isn't true?
I don't know. I feel like every time I feel like we've reached the end of that inkwell, we keep finding more new ways to say it because we keep having to write these stories. So it's important. I mean, I think that context of explaining, kind of how we got to where we are and what some of the background is and how, we've seen, dozens and dozens of lawsuits, of attempts of claims that have all gotten tossed out. I mean, I think that is important for people to be reminded of. Whether they take that information, our job is to, essentially figure out what's going on, write the truth as close as we can get to it in the moment, and put it out there for people to take in. And at that point, what they choose to do with that information and with the reporting that we're able to do, is really up to them.
Well, the context is really important. And Jim, as you were talking before we came on the air about this latest lawsuit or appeal from Kari Lake and Mark Fincham to the U.S. Supreme Court, in their case that the election machines are all rigged, as you pointed out, and it's very important to remember this, that you don't introduce new information in an appeal. I mean, this thing's going to get tossed on its ear probably in no time. But it's important to point that out. And if they've got new information, then I guess give us a new lawsuit.
For those,
I think
please.
that one thing is that has gotten journalists into trouble is like breathless reporting to say this is false without being able to explain why or to actually engage with the person that's claiming it in a way that doesn't make you dismissed. I think that's part of the problem is mainstream media is just dismissed because they're always saying things are false and they're always just kind of outright dismissing people's thoughts. And I feel like that's where you get into trouble. You really have to take each claim seriously, and you have to explain to people why it can't be possible.
But isn't that the old journalism conundrum? I mean, if I walk around and say the earth, by the way, is flat, and you're lying when you say it's not flat, how much credence do you give to me?
I would say there is a select group of people that you're not going to reach. And how much effort you put into reaching that group I wouldn't give them as much effort as everyone else, right? And so the Earth is Flatters aren't going to get as much of my time as everyone else.
But do you see that the relationship there, the corollary? I mean, there are certain things that simply aren't true that election deniers believe. And how many different ways can you say this is simply not true? How far do you go? How deep do you go on that story?
I think I like going deep, so I'm gonna just say that you find out what is the truth, and you go there, and you keep repeating it as long as you have to.
And I think you demand proof. Okay,
Yes.
You're saying the Earth is flat. We've seen, no proof of that. But where does your proof?
Yeah.
And then you put that into the context of how you're going to present that story.
Would you have done that 20 years ago?
I would like to think so. I mean, on the Earth is flat.
Yeah. Would you?
Yeah. But I think, I sort of believe that, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. Let's talk about gatekeepers and trust. And Jim, we'll start with you. Are there journalistic gatekeepers anymore? Are there gatekeepers in the media like there used to be? And if not, is that a good or a bad thing?
The media landscape has changed so dramatically. I mean, just in the time that I've been doing it over the last couple of decades, it's changed tremendously. I mean, I came up through newspapers, and my first job was at a newspaper that had a printing press in the basement that shook the entire building, right? Like, we don't have that anymore. We're online only now. Like, we're fully in the 21st century. It is different. I think the barriers to access are a lot different now. I think that the business models have changed, and I think that you have a larger variety of media interests that are out there some are very specialized, like what Jen and like what VoteBeat does, where they specialize in the nuts and bolts of how elections are run, and that is a tremendous resource. We're a daily online publication, and Mary Jo's living the best of both worlds with the print paper and the online and having to do everything so I think that the media environment is a lot more varied now, even if it's a little bit smaller. But I think in Arizona we're fortunate because we have so many reporters who are really paying attention to what's going on in politics and in elections, and in particular, I think we've all been forced to take multiple crash courses in how elections work.
Yes.
And in how these things are conducted, into the things that we maybe took for granted 10 years ago or 15 years ago, that we all, I think, really pretty intricately understand at this point and are able to really imbue our reporting with a lot of that.
But with so many different ways to get information right now, and maybe the lack of gatekeepers, certainly not, the gates aren't quite as tall and high as they used to be. If I believe that journalism, for the most part, is part of the deep state, does that make it easier for me to believe that you're part of the deep state?
Yes. Yes.
And how do you counter that?
I mean, just by writing fair stories. That's my focus. That's always, the defense is the truth and continuing to write fair stories when things go wrong and not trying to favor any political office. In Maricopa County and Pinal County, they've had errors. Those type of stories increase voter trust and increase the public trust when you're telling them about real things that are happening, and also telling them what isn't true.
Yeah. But can you expect, can those watching right now, they can go to different places, they can find the same story told 5 different ways. How do you break through that? How do you at least be a fence keeper, if not a gatekeeper?
I think you tell them who you are, and you tell them that by your work, and that's all you can do individually. And institutions can also do it. But I've always been. You trust certain reporters, and you show them what you can do. You're right. The gatekeeper. There's no longer one mass institution, and people are tweeting all over the place random things. So there's no more institution.
Mary Jo, talk about the landscape out there.
Well, it's very diverse right now. The media landscape in Arizona. Right now we're 3 different publications. You could get 4 more journalists up here from different, still more different publications that spend a lot of time on elections. I think on the point of gatekeepers, it's sort of what the viewer or the reader sees as what's the source that I trust or what's the source that I rely on. don't know if I consider myself a gatekeeper, but I would hope that there are readers and viewers that would say, well, the Arizona Republic, it's one of those mainstream media things, and I've read it and I trust it, or I trust certain authors within it.
Right, but once they say mainstream media, Jim, that right there is a bad thing to a significant number of folks out there.
Sure, it is, and I think that the idea that the media ecosystem is diverse, yes, I think it is, but I think it's also really fractured and really polarized, and it's less a media. People's media diets have really turned into, instead of balanced diets, they've really turned into eating one thing only, and you lock yourself into a silo that is you're only hearing information that you want to hear, only hearing things that reinforce what you already believe. And I think that that's where, whether it's through social media or whether it's through, publications that cater to one political audience or another and exclusively talk to those people, I think that that's where we see a lot of the things that are going on and why it is really difficult to break through and to convince, to convince some people. Like Jen said, there are people you're not going to convince. I don't think it's worth spending a whole lot of time and effort and resources to try to, because you're not going to.
Jen, talk about your experience during the audit, Maricopa County audit, how you were there, what you saw, and especially how this information from what was happening was transferred out in such a variety of ways. And you talk about touching the elephant here. Holy smokes. You could go 4 different places and 5, 6 different, descriptions. What did you see, and how did that affect your journalism?
I think it was the first time that I realized that, the claims from 2020 were hitting home. It was just after, January 6th. And we were just realizing that this outside group was going to get control of our ballots, and just being there and then watching, the Gateway pundit come in, and Christina Bobb with OAN they were always sitting next to me when I was watching them in the Coliseum, counting our ballots. It was just a surreal experience to see how that misinformation cycle started, behind the scenes with the leader of the Cyber Ninjas coming up to Christina Bobb and then being broadcast out. It really was a representation of how this misinformation gets born and bred and then passed on. Yeah,
and also the fact that when you wanted information, when you needed to get information, it was so difficult to come by.
It was, and I felt like our Senator Ken Bennett, who's now, a senator, he wasn't at the time, was trying to be the conduit between us. Mary Jo will remember that. He was trying to get us information, and they were trying to keep him away from, what we wanted to know.
Story within the story, right?
Yeah. So we were very much, in this position where we saw this misinformation, but we didn't know the facts. So what do you do in that position?
Yeah. I'm also going to add that the audit, to the earlier point about there being a lot of outlets in Arizona that focus on elections and devote a fair amount of their coverage, I give the audit credit for that. I think that woke up a lot of people in Arizona, like, what is this thing going on down at the Coliseum with the little, rolling, lazy Susans and people counting ballots and the blue pens and everything, that it got a lot more interest in following election news. And the more people observing, it's more sunshine. Sunshine is always good. Right. It is hard to have that sunshine penetrate when you've got a big barrier like they put up at the audit. But they let us in the room. I had the happy duty of going to the sweat box where they had to relocate in the summer, and the swamp-cooled facility. I want people to know that I did my First Amendment duty, but man, I took a lot of showers. but they allow, at least there was some ability to monitor, at least from a distance, what they were doing. But you couldn't get answers about what they were finding.
Well, and Jim, these are our votes here. These are our ballots that are being pawed over and maybe moved to different locations and all this kind of thing. You need to get as much information out of that as possible, and it just seemed like every day the reporting out of there was, well, maybe this, and someone wasn't allowing for that's not how you run an airline.
No, I think that there were a lot of issues with that, call it an audit, I'd call it a partisan ballot review, call it something, that was dreamed up really by the Trump campaign and implemented in Arizona. Because I think I think that's really at the end of the day, and what we've learned since is exactly what it was. And I think that the opaqueness was part of the design. I mean, they didn't want to let us in at all. We had to hire attorneys and go to court in order to even get people to be in the building at all. So I think if they had their druthers, they would have done it all in a black box, and we would have known nothing until they were done and they released whatever they released.
Looking back, Jen, the way the media covered this, the quote-unquote audit, give a grade, give an overview. How'd we do?
A+. I think that I have been a reporter in Arizona since 2018, and I feel like everyone really came together to ensure that it was covered with the limited resources everyone had. And if there was a claim, everyone was working together to figure it out. And that was really powerful, and I wish that would happen more in the media landscape.
Yeah, what do you think, Jim?
Yeah, no, I think it was great, and I think Mary Jo's spot on when she said that this was what sort of, I think, got people's attention. On elections, I think that it definitely was this, and it was hugely collaborative, and in part because we were kind of forced to, because we could only have one person in there at a time, and so we were doing a lot of pool reporting, and that was important. But I think it also got a lot of outlets talking together in a way that occasionally happens, but I think it happened in a really concerted way.
Mary Jo, compare 2022 and 2020 with elections of the dim and distant past, before we had a lot of the factors that are at play right now. Just give us an overview of what, I remember when elections in Arizona were considered a shining star, along with judicial retention. We kept doing stories on how the country was always looking at it with elections and with judicial retention. As far as elections, obviously that has changed now, but what do you remember from previous elections and then these past two?
Well, I think and thank you for honoring my seniority apparently among the crowd here. Prior to 2020, I think often the biggest thing coming out of election coverage, other than who won, and there usually wasn't much dispute about that, also because many of those elections were pretty lopsided. But the big storyline is, why does it take so long to get results? Yeah. Why do we have to wait? Why is it week 2? And that still happens, but it's been overtaken by these claims that are more an assault on the system itself. Well, things were rigged, or my ballot got spit out, of the machine, and then so my vote didn't count, or I need to see that, I need to see my ballot and know that it was counted. Well, you can't know that because it's a secret ballot, Mm-hmm. So I think that's the big difference, is it's more skepticism about some of the mechanics of the election, whereas before it was just like this, wait, why do we have to wait so long, and the impatience of having to wait for election results.
Why the skepticism? What happened?
Well, Donald Trump. I think that made all the difference. And Donald Trump's why there's a press corps in Arizona that's a more robust press corps in Arizona that is paying attention to elections. He drew, and we all know the Donald Trump story, but he has people that are firmly in his camp, and people that are very leery, if not terrified by or fascinated by what he's doing, and he brings a lot of attention. The guy gets a heck of a lot of attention. So I think that's what made it different. And then you layer on in 2020, we were having a pandemic,
right.
So we tried different ways to try to let the vote go on. And I remember, skepticism about allowing people to drive up to a polling place, but vote from their vehicle. And rightfully so, you've got to be concerned about some safeguards, but you also want to talk about health safeguards as well. So I think, Trump and COVID. Thank you.
And Jim, Mary Jo mentioned that races weren't necessarily always as tight as it seems like they are right now back in the day. And back in the day, that's a lot easier to figure out what's going on, and a lot more difficult to say it's rigged when you lost by a landslide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember having the experience one time of going back and looking at a race, thinking a race that I had expected was, an 8 or 9 point victory by the Republican, and coming out to find out, oh, it was only like 3 points. Well, I guess they kept counting all those ballots after Election Day, and when the race had already been called, and the race tightened significantly. But that was what we looked at, right? I mean, Democrats were very rarely competitive statewide. There were a handful of legislative seats that are competitive that might have, we might have been waiting for counts on those for 4 or 5, 6 days after the election. Maybe, depending on counties or city level, things like that. But generally, if you had an R after your name, you were going to win, and you were probably going to win pretty comfortably in Arizona. And so, I think that is one of the biggest things that's changed, is the demographics and just the voting patterns in the state have resulted in Democrats making more gains and being able to perform better at the ballot box. And I do think a lot of what we see and a lot of this election denialism is just almost a refusal to accept kind of where the world is at now, where Arizona is at now versus where it was at 10 years ago or 15 or 20 years ago, when Republicans were the dominant political force. And they knew that they were going to walk out of the elections with easy wins, and now they're not. And so I think that there's a little bit of kind of having to confront reality, and I think it manifests. I mean, it's spurred on by Donald Trump. It's spurred on by some of the COVID things that happened. But I think that is that's kind of the undergirding for a lot of what's going on.
And speaking of like close elections, you're right. That's a more recent phenomenon. But I remember we would have close elections often in a primary, and I keep remembering one that happened in a legislative district, a long time ago, and it was a tie. And so what did they do? Secretary of State Jane Hull, dressed up like a card dealer, and they drew cards to figure out, who won the seat. But nobody was saying, this was rigged, I was ripped off, I was robbed. I mean, that whole discussion, has changed. And I will be, we've got some very competitive Republican primaries coming up here. I'm thinking of CD8 especially. And we have, Abe Hamadeh there, who's still, arguing that he won the AG's race. I will be interested to see if that is anywhere near close, what the dynamics are in that kind of primary.
Would you expect that kind of narrative in a primary where everyone is of the same party as opposed to a general where you get an R and a D and maybe someone else tossed in?
I'm not expecting it as much. I don't know if you two are. But I think everything's going to be about the general election.
As far as Donald Trump, one individual saying it was rigged and just saying it over and over and over again. And as Jim mentioned, demographics. I mean, are those the two major factors as to why elections, A, are closer, and B, it just seems like no one's happy with the results?
I see a lot of it being, the changing political makeup of our state, and a lot of, in 2020, a lot of the disruption, or some of the disruption, came from the red counties, Cochise County, trying to block the certification of the election. They were, trying to make a stand against something that happened in Maricopa County when they did that. And so we're seeing kind of, the Republican areas of the state responding to people like Trump and like Kari Lake and, trying to protest what's happening in Maricopa.
And you recently posted something regarding rural voting in Arizona and how new laws and procedures and such. Talk to us about that, because it's making a difference out there. It's making for a different landscape, if you will.
Yeah, I went out to the Tohono O'odham Nation, and I met with a small village there who was getting Maricopa County to put in satellite technology so that they can connect their electronic poll books, and so they can have a more secure connection. They're trying to fix their mail voting out there. That's a big problem in rural areas, trying to get mail in time or get it at all and then send it back in time. So there are efforts across the state to try to see that our voting stays secure and reliable.
Jim, I wanted to ask you about, I seem to recall not too long ago where you kind of said adios to Twitter/X, whatever they're calling it these days. Why'd you do it? What was the thought behind it? And are you still holding firm?
I occasionally have to look at something on the former, I don't know, the carcass of Twitter now, right? I occasionally have to look at something. I don't like to, but Sometimes you have to. And I mean, the reason I left was because it had devolved. It was the social media platform that it was of my choice. But I don't do a lot of social media, but that was one that I did heavily, and I found it valuable. I found it informative. I learned a lot. I was able to interact with readers, interact with politicians, interact with all kinds of folks. And you know, I think the culture of it had changed, and it had been going downhill, you know, in my estimation for probably about a year. And it just kind of got to the point where I was getting sick of seeing a whole bunch of, you know, Nazi stuff and crypto stuff and, you know, pornographic stuff just like shoved into your timeline. And at that point, it was just kind of like, all right, this place is not what it used to be. It is a place to go on to and get yelled at by a lot of people who aren't listening, or who are, you know, not even real people, who are just bots. And the cost benefit analysis, you know, in kind of that I ran in my brain was like, all right, I think I'm done here. This is making my life worse actively. So I'm going to walk away. And I've not been happier with that decision. It is a great, I personally would recommend it to every single person to just walk away from social media in general, Twitter in particular.
What about journalistically?
You know what? Maybe it makes my job a little bit harder. But honestly, I had stopped getting journalistic value out of it. You know, really at the end of the day, was seeing people rant and rave online was, those are not the kinds of stories I don't think that I want to be telling. And so, you know, we made the choice to walk away.
Heather, got some audience questions out there?
We hope so. Let's hope so. That's right. You're watching an Arizona PBS special, AZ Votes 2024. And again, I'm your host, Heather Moore. We want to turn now to our audience, as Ten mentioned, for questions for our journalists. So if anybody who has questions can come up and join me here. I'll hold the mic. We'll have you say your name, and then you can present your questions to the panel.
All right.
Anybody brave enough?
We'll give them some time. Let's stew for a little bit there. Let's get back to some
Let's
conversation
turn up the heat
here.
a little bit. I think we're getting so much good information from our local journalists and from you, Ted, that I think we're covering a lot of ground, that's for sure.
Good. Let's continue covering a lot of ground. Let's talk about the election itself, Mary Jo. I mean, this is a, you know, tomorrow's kind of a cut and dry deal with this presidential preference thing. But from then on, the election you're watching the most, I would imagine, would be the U.S. Senate race. I think everyone is that way. Other races to watch, and why?
Well, clearly the presidential, and then the legislative races. I mean, this is the year where, especially with the Democratic governor in place, which is different than the past, and she's been doing a lot of fundraising and being very clear that her intention is to try to flip the legislature. We'll be watching some of those very competitive legislative races in the primary, but also in the general.
Are there more competitive races this go around than previous?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so. I think it's more, it's a question of strategy and resources, that if there's going to be a different kind of outcome. For our viewers, the legislature's been stuck at 31 and 29 and 16 and 14 in the House and Senate respectively for 2 election cycles. It hasn't changed. So, you know, even with district lines having changed. So I think the difference, if there will be one, will be probably resources and strategy.
Big stories, Jim, this election cycle.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Mary Jo's exactly right. I mean, I think the control of the legislature, that being in the balance, that is not something that we were familiar with in Arizona. You know, Republicans have, with a couple of very rare exceptions, controlled the legislature since the mid-1960s. And so if Democrats are able to take control of one chamber or both, certainly, that changes the dynamics down at the Capitol. That those are probably the most consequential races for everyday Arizonans.
Day-to-day life.
For day-to-day life in Arizona. You know, there's also a couple of congressional seats that are going to be competitive that, Republicans, David Schweikert out of Scottsdale-based district and Juan Ciscomani out of Tucson. Democrats are making hard plays for both of those. Obviously, Republicans hold an extremely narrow majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, and Democrats are hoping to, again, take over control of Congress.
Jen, headlines for this election cycle. What do you see?
It's all about the counties. I think that's what we learned, like especially in 2022. We're looking at not only, the Maricopa County supervisor races. 2 are leaving after, facing all of this drama the last 4 years. This isn't the job they signed up for when it was all about water districts and other boring stuff for county supervisors. So not just in Maricopa, though. In Cochise County and Mojave County, there's important supervisor races going on there. Recorder races. These are also election administrators. That's going to be who's running our elections in 2028, so we have to look at that.
How do you make room for the Corporation Commission and other races out there that are of consequence when all this yelling and screaming and court filings and lawsuits and this, that, and the other, how do you make room for it?
Oh, that's a Jim question. I have no idea. I'm just a reporter, I have no idea.
How do you, we're talking priority again.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is difficult, right? I mean, you do have to kind of decide what are you going to commit to, and some of it is guided by which races seem like they're going to be close, right? Like, are we going to cover race A or race B? Well, race B looks like it might be a closer race, so we're going to cover that instead with our limited staff time and staff resources. But it is important, and I think a lot of it comes down to, some of it's going to come down to planning, just knowing ahead of time. You sit down in this time of year or April and kind of sketch out, like, what do we want to do and when do we want to do it, and how do we kind of devote resources to that, or find a way to free someone up to go cover something.
Talk about the logistics, Mary Jo, of prioritizing and making sure that what you want in there, what you think should be in there, is in there.
Well, you look at, as Jim said, things that are close where there is, there's going to be a lot of attention. I mean, a lot of public interest because things appear to be so close, and the consequences, like the legislature flipping to Democratic, that would be practically historic. So you're going to pay attention to that. And I would say another thing that I'm going to be watching for, if it makes the ballot, is the Make Elections Fair citizen initiative, because that will change how we vote. And that's sort of, that's sort of at the heart of all of this. If we feel that the state is, and the backers of this feel that we've become way too hyper-partisan, they're trying to take that temperature down by going to an open primary and then maybe some kind of ranked choice voting afterwards if you don't get a clear winner from that. And I know I'm making the argument within my publication to spend some time, discussing that and analyzing it and putting it out there, because it is a big change in how it would be a big change in how we conduct our elections.
So I think that's another thing when you talk about resources, right? We're talking about races and candidates. Boy, what are the ballot measures going to look like this year, right? I mean, so we have the Make Elections Fair one. There is a reproductive rights ballot citizen initiative that's out gathering signatures. The legislature is mulling. They've already put a couple things on the ballot. They're mulling dozens more, several dozen, 4 dozen more things that could potentially wind up on the ballot. I mean, in Maricopa County, I think we're already looking at a 2-page ballot. Yep. I think we very likely, depending on how many things lawmakers send to the ballot to avoid a veto, we might end up with a 3-page ballot, or God forbid, a 4-page ballot. And it's, those are all things that, again, have to be, we'd love to cover every one of them. We'd love to cover every one of them in great detail, but we're going to have to make those choices in terms of which things are out there and how can we cover everything.
How does Vote Beat approach all of this?
I mean, ballot initiatives, we want to explain to people what these are. If they're election related, we're going to be in there, saying this is, this qualified for the ballot. You're going to see this. You might have an open primary. This means that, you're not going to just see Republicans on, everyone's going to be able to vote. Explain the details. Ranked choice voting, that's a big issue that no one's really talking about yet, but it might be coming onto their ballots. So I think we focus really on what's going to be important to voters, and that's where we start.
Yeah, it can be complicated. That's your job, is to clarify things for voters and for viewers and for our audience here. Make sure we know what we're looking at here.
Yeah, and often you need to repeat a message several times before it sinks in, and there is a tendency to sort of do a one and done on, we've written about this race, we're done, we'll move on. Good luck with the judges. Yeah.
The horse race, Jim, the horse race aspect of everything, and the media, looking at polls, looking at who's winning, who's losing, who's catching up, who's falling behind. The media has faced some criticism for a little too much of that. Valid criticism?
I think so. I think tremendously valid. I wrote a couple weeks ago, about how the Arizona Mirror is going to be covering the elections this year. And, our goal is really to not do that horse race coverage, to focus on, I think our motto is really focus on the stakes, not on the odds. We want to focus on what the results of elections are going to mean for people. What do people want their elected officials to do? What are the elected officials saying about that? And then if, candidate A wins or candidate B wins, how is that going to affect people's lives and the policies that are implemented? That, I think, is where the media has really dropped the ball. I think that there's been, over the past generation, we've seen the coverage of elections and government turn into less about policy and less about impact and more about kind of the gamification of everything, of who's winning, who's losing, who's got the edge on this, who's, who pulled off a fast one over here. And that stuff might be tantalizing to voters, and I think that there's, not to voters, but to readers, I think that it attracts eyeballs and clicks, and it's a little salacious. But at the end of the day, I don't think that voters walk away from reading those kinds of stories feeling any better about their elections or feeling like they know any more about what's going on in their elections. And I think that we see the result of that, I think, in terms of people's confidence in government and elections.
Interesting. Heather, do we have some questions?
We absolutely do. I'm joined by Mark right now. He started a trend. We've got a small line going over here. So, Mark, thank you for coming up and being the first one. What is your question?
Well, actually, it starts with a statement. I think that in the last 4 election cycles, there are some politicians that have found that no matter what statement they make, no matter how untrue it may be, has helped to feed their base. And I have noticed nationally many times that when these statements are made, they are very quickly clarified by reporters. Have you found that you are more apt to be aware of the fact that they're just getting attention, and that you'll dispute that more immediately rather than let them have their time, their 15 seconds of fame?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, especially given the speed of social media, even though Jim's not looking at it, but it gets out there and gets out there really fast.
Jim, you want to respond to that?
I think it's important to respond swiftly, and I think part of the challenge, I think, with all of us, I think especially in kind of the online age, is balancing speed and accuracy. And it's something I think we've all gotten a lot better at, I think, as we've kind of grown with the internet, but that's always the difficulty. But, when it comes to some of the things that are just bald-faced lies and very very obviously incorrect, the flat earth, comparison that Ted made earlier, I think it's easy and incumbent on journalists and anybody else, frankly, to go out there and say, yeah, no, that's not true.
Thank you. And our next question comes from Ken. What is your question?
Yes, so this may be a process question, but outside of complaining that Arizona doesn't get its votes in early enough, how do you feel? Do you feel the national press represents, the Arizona voter stories accurately, or are you the source of their, information?
Jen, why don't you take that one?
I think the national press has gotten a little better about, we call it parachuting in our industry, where there's a big story and everybody drops in for a night and then leaves. But like I noticed during the 2022 printer problems in Maricopa County that the national media really took it upon themselves to learn the issue, learn our voters, and there's a whole room full for a week. So.
Yeah, what do you think there,
I mean, the Washington Post has a reporter based here. She's local. She used to work for the Republic. I mean, she knows Arizona. The New York Times has always had a person covering, our area. So we're just an object of fascination. And that, as one of my editors used to say, we are a very fertile news environment, and that attracts journalists. And we've got some of them like camping here.
We're an object of fascination. I love that. All right, next we have Tom from Cave Creek. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, every vote counts. I lost my election in Cave. Well, I didn't lose the election. I lost my seat because I drew the lower card. So every vote counts. But my question for you is, do you find that there are certain issues that are more difficult for you as a reporter to cover than others?
Oh, that's a good question. Jim, what do you think?
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think yes and no. I mean, our job is, one of the things I love about being a journalist is that you show up every day and it's always going to be different. I don't know what my day is going to look like, and I relish those days when I have a plan at 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm still working on that plan at, I was going to say 4, but I honestly 1. Some things are hard, and especially when things happen and it's not something you're familiar with and you've covered before, and you have to kind of learn on the fly, because it's our job to represent, to present some clarity to readers, to viewers, to listeners. And if we're not clear on it, we're kind of building the plane a little bit as we're flying, and I think that's part of that challenge, and kind of gets back to that idea of speed versus accuracy. And I think we always try to err on the side of accuracy, but it's tempting to keep pressing the gas pedal a little harder.
Stories that affect you, how do you handle them?
Well, you try to you try to humanize it. You try to maybe tell it through the lens of somebody who's experiencing whatever the topic might be, as opposed to just sort of the dry, just the facts, ma'am kind of lead. You show how it affects people's lives. So, if the reproductive rights, measure, what that would mean, what that means for, and you can tell it from, of course, many different perspectives. We just had a very impassioned speech on the state Senate floor today from a lawmaker who had a very wanted pregnancy, but that didn't work out, and the choices that forced her and her husband to do. You tell it from the perspective of the physicians and the medical community. So you try to show that. Tax issues are always good ones to give examples for.
Yeah. What do you got, Heather?
Next up, we have Richard from Phoenix. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. So my question, even somewhat building off of that last question, is really what's the story that's not being told? What's the Paul Revere moment for you all that you're trying to tell this story, but it's not catching because maybe it's not sexy enough, and everybody wants to be fascinated, but this is the thing that we need to be really paying attention to. What is that for you right now?
What do you think, Jen?
Let me think about that. That's a great question. I wish people cared about the movement to hand count ballots. I feel like it's a real threat and no one really cares about it. There's certain things, that I feel like we're doing well in Arizona covering. The threats to election officials. We're doing a really good job of getting inside and seeing how that's affecting people and the people doing those jobs. And I feel like that's something that I wish more people told.
What do you think? Mary Jo, you got one?
Yeah, I always struggle with, because I hear it sometimes, we don't think people are interested in that story. I'm like, but it's important. It's important. And I think this cycle, it'll be a lot of these ballot measures that lawmakers are referring. They just sent one to the ballot today. It's going to be there. And, is this a no-brainer? Life in prison for anybody found guilty of sex trafficking minors. Well, there's actually nuance to that, but that's not going to come across on your ballot. And so taking the time to sort of dig into that, I worry about that these things are being put on the ballot for a very express reason, and it's very easy to just simplify it when these are very often very complicated issues. But watch out for that one. That's very interesting.
Devil's always in the details, right?
Yeah.
Finally, we have Penny from Scottsdale. What is your question?
My question is pulling from the last comment that Mary Jo said and tying it to the mis and disinformation. What obligation do you all feel that you have to ensure that those titles of your articles reflect what the story is? Because it's not uncommon to have a story and you see a title and you read the story and say, that's not what the title, is leading me to believe.
Do they still have headline writers at publications that are different from the person who actually wrote the story? They used to back in the day. Do they still do that, Mary Jo?
Somewhat. So, I think we all have different stories, but we are supposed to put headlines on the stories that we write. So, which in a way is, I remember I was grumbling about that, and one of my sources said, well, wouldn't that be better? Because then you are controlling the headline on your own story. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm tired. It's been the end of the day. You've got to meet a certain count. It's got to meet all these SEO requirements and keywords and blah, blah, blah. But but often I will write a headline, and then somebody else, a producer in the newsroom, will change it because they think it'll get more clicks.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of my day, more of my day than I'd like, writing headlines, right? I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, I think headlines are maybe one of the bigger places that journalism falls down a little bit, because I think headlines are a place. Stories can be really good and really insightful and really incisive and written really tightly and sharply and get the point across. And headlines can be mush mouth. And I personally don't care for that. A lot of passive voice, a lot of, backing, equivocating in a headline. I'm a fan of, personally, of really strong headlines and kind of aggressive headlines that get right to the point of what the story is. And if I write a headline and I read the story and I realize that the thing I'm writing about in the headline isn't for 5 paragraphs in, I either need to rewrite my headline or I need to help the reporter with the story and get the story, up into shape.
Jen?
I love that question because headlines always bother me. I don't know. I hate question headlines. Like, we could technically write a headline that says, did Kari Lake really win her election, and then just have it say no underneath, and it'll get people to click. So I think there's a responsibility that comes with writing headlines, and I'm always a little aggravated when I see someone, misusing that responsibility.
Jen Fifield, Vote Beat, Jim Small, Arizona Mirror, Mary Jo Pitzel, Arizona Republican, azcentral.com panel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that is our show for tonight. Please continue to watch our full, in-depth election coverage on Arizona Horizon and Horizonte, which will include upcoming debates. Also, we're going to have coverage of tomorrow's presidential preference election live at 10 o'clock p.m. That is while the results are coming in. We would like to thank all of our guests today, along with David Becker and Ted Simons, of course. And then, of course, thank you to our live studio audience tonight. For Arizona PBS, it's been my pleasure to be with you. I'm Heather Moore.